Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining the ACT-IAC Talent COI member meeting this month. My name is Nancy Della Noce. I am the Director for Community Engagement at ACT-IAC, and I just wanted to share some announcements from the organization. And the first one is we stood up a new community of interest on climate change. And this is a brand new community, and we are inviting folks who are interested in this topic to join. If you or any of your colleagues are interested, you can go to this link or send me an email. I'll put my email on the chat, and we'd love to have you be engaged in this new effort. And then the second is next week, we have our quarterly membership meeting. This event is open to any and all ACT-IAC members. It's 3:30 to 7 at the Hilton Tyson's Corner. And we usually have a panel or a speaker from government. And this time it's from DHS, panel from DHS covering customer experience. After the panel, we will have a nice networking reception at the end. So I hope you can attend. This is a free event that is open for all members. And with that, I will pass it on to Terry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's program. We're so happy you could join us. I'm Terry Schaefer, and I serve as the Government Vice Chair for the Talent COI. You guys have probably seen our recent announcement where we've unveiled the new name. We were previously the Evolving the Workforce COI and have been renamed Talent, which really better reflects the mission of the COI, focusing on the pressing issues around recruiting, retention, engaging, developing the talent that support the agency mission. So it's really about getting the right people to the right place at the right time, in the right position, and ensure they want to stay in government service, are productive in their work. So we're excited about that change in the organization name, or the COI name. And then I also wanted to share with you a little bit about a couple of projects that we have going. One of them has recently been kicked off, and one of them will be kicking off soon. So the project that is underway is one on retaining the Gen Z workforce. And we have a great group of volunteers who are hard at work on the project. They're conducting research, they're working on toolkits for leaders and managers. And as part of the project team's going to be holding 2 Gen Z events, welcoming in the Gen Zers to engage in a meeting. And it's really part of the research effort. And so the objective of that is to create a journey map, and they're going to be exploring the experience and expectations of the Gen Z workforce. And one of those events is going to be in person in the DC metro area, kind of take advantage of the concentrated group in that area. And so that'll be in person, but then there will be a virtual event that will be, available to everyone. We want to make sure there's as much engagement as possible. So what our ask is of all of you is that once that's scheduled and communication goes out, we ask that you share it with those, in your agency, in your company, or young talent that you know of who's in government or interested in working in the government, because it'll be a great opportunity to really learn from them. Also for their benefit, they can network and create kind of a community of their own. So more to come on that, so keep an eye out. And then the other project that's going to be kicking off soon, and we'll be doing a call for volunteers, so watch for that. That project will be focusing on the time to hire. So in the government, we have very real challenges around getting people in and getting them up and running. There are urgent hiring needs. There's time spent reworking, like posting positions multiple times. There are lots of process challenges of getting people started. And, we know in a competitive market, candidates don't want to wait. They'll accept other offers, or you have employees that start and they're incredibly discouraged by the onboarding process and running into snags and not actually able to get their work started. So, it's also it's different too in a hybrid environment. So there need to be kind of different approaches. And so, agencies have these processes where certain things have to be done in order, and processes are different among the various agencies. So the project really is to look at the metrics to identify the biggest blocks of burden in the time to hire process, and then provide guidance to agencies of best practices on how to reduce those time blocks. So we're going to be looking for volunteers from government and industry and people who are interested or have expertise in recruiting, hiring, onboarding, badging. We have security teams, IT, customer experience. So there are a lot of people that could engage in this project. So once that comes out, please join the team or share it with others that you think would be interested. So that's essentially everything we have going right now in the COI. If you have questions, of course, please reach out to Nancy, reach out to me. But for today's program, we are very excited to welcome OPM here. They recently released their Workforce of the Future Playbook. And we have Eric Popiel, who agreed to share all of this with us today. Eric works at OPM, and he is the manager for the Future of Work group in the Office of Workforce Policy and Innovation. He manages a team of subject matter experts and is responsible for the Long-Term Futures program that informs federal workforce policy for OPM and assists the 24 CFO ACT agencies in strategic human capital management. Eric is also a project manager for the President's Management Agenda Strategy 3, focused on ensuring the success for the future federal workforce, and he's the liaison to the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. Eric also serves as a co-chair for the Federal Foresight Community of Interest, a group dedicated to collaborating and promoting foresight and futures thinking within the federal government. And a little nugget about Eric, for those of you who don't already know this, he is a pilot, or was a pilot with the U.S. Coast Guard before joining OPM. So with that, I will turn it over to Eric, and he did mention before that he is open to questions, and so a raise of hand or put it in the chat and we can create an interactive session. So Eric, it's all yours.
All right, can everybody see my screen, Terry? Yes,
yes,
good.
I
Okay,
can
I see
see
a thumbs
it.
up from John. All right, so thanks for the introduction. Appreciate it. It's fun to do this kind of stuff, as I was mentioning before. I do enjoy going out and well, I guess virtually, and doing presentations and stuff. I will preface this with a few things. Is the playbook, which I'm going to talk about today, and I'll go over all the plays. And as Terry mentioned, I'm more than happy to answer questions. You can toss them in the chat. And if you feel so inclined, raise your hand. I've got the video up and I should see your hand pop up and I can call on you as well. But I will say that, so this is not just a labor of love on my part. There was a lot of other people at OPM and frankly from around government who contributed to this. You'll notice that there's a lot of tools and resources and promising agency practices. All of that took a lot of coordination. And so while my office and my team was the one that got it over the finish line, and that was quite a process, given the requirements and all the clearance, it is a work where there was a lot of people that collaborated on this and broke down a bunch of silos and really put a lot of effort into organizing it and getting the right tools and resources in the people's hands. And so I just want to give a shout out to all those folks, because it's not just Eric doing this. There's a lot of other folks, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that and say that other people were involved. And frankly, a lot of the content they're the experts on. I certainly can talk about the playbook and I can certainly speak to it, but there's a lot of content in here that I would pass people off to other subject matter experts. I will do everything I can to answer your questions. So throw them as hard or as easy as you want. But I just wanted to put that out as sort of a caveat to the whole thing as well, too, that we're doing. You'll notice here, there's a QR code. If you want to scan it, it'll pop up. There's also a link in the chat for the playbook. We felt this was a pretty easy, cool way of getting people to actually click on the thing and go to it rather than doing the Google search, OPM's Future of the Workforce Playbook or Workforce of the Future Playbook. And there, I made that hiccup there. We actually were calling it Future of Work for a while. And then we thought about it and we're like, wait a minute, Future of Work, that's been played out. So we actually are looking, and this is why the playbook, I think, is called Workforce of the Future. That to me speaks of a journey, not a destination. And this playbook is intended to be a journey, not a destination. In other words, yes, it came out in a PDF format. Yes, you can print it out and you can hold it in your hands. But my goal with this is, and I'll get into it a little bit towards the end, is to really learn from people who are using it, gather feedback from the webinars that we're doing, and in doing so, add on additional plays so we want to hear from our customers and say, what are you thinking about? What do you think we should do some research on? Can you help us? Do you have leading practices? That sort of stuff. So this is a team effort across government. And really what I'm trying to do is make sure that we're breaking down those silos between people at OPM and teams at OPM and also across government as well, too. And so it's nice to see some familiar faces on here on board, too. I know I've worked with John and Todd as well. And I think that's what we do. And I think that with this community practice, the COI is doing, is working across government, which is awesome. So I will get rolling here. Again, throw the questions my way and we'll go from there. Well, let me get the technology working, right? It's been, okay, here we go. That's me. Thanks, Terry, for the introduction. There's a bunch of stuff that I do. While the screen is up, I just want to say that as we're thinking about the future of the workforce, as we're thinking about where we need to go, what work will look like, I think it behooves us to really, even though a lot of us are kind of stuck sometimes in jobs that are very transactional, I think that anybody has the ability to really break outside that mold and think strategically and think about how can I affect change so that the government, my agency, as Terry mentioned, early career talent, comes in and we leave a government behind for people that we're proud of, and that's better than when we got in, right? I say that Terry mentioned I was a pilot, loads of fun, cool missions, but it's a very mission focused sort of a occupation, right? So you get in the airplane, you fly the mission, you land after 3 hours when the gas runs out, and you do another mission, right? It's very near term. And what I would challenge everybody here to do is think longer. And so I went and ran the Foresight program over at Coast Guard, and largely that is thinking about the Coast Guard 20 years, and now I'm thinking about the federal workforce years into the future. So I say that if my mind that was very conditioned to be operational, tactical, transactionally focused, flying an airplane, if I can do it, y'all can do it. So that's my challenge to you, is to really think strategically and think long term and think outside the box, right? Be bold and communicate that to your leadership as well too. And that's what we're trying to do with the playbook. I think it's foundational. I think there's a lot of stuff in here that people are like, that's good. Thanks for the information. I think people want more, right? But we've laid a really nice foundation, and now it's time to start building the house. And that's what I'm trying to do. All right. We do have some webinars. So, and we'll circulate these slides. Terry, you're more than welcome to do it. So there's links here. There's sign-up sheets on Eventbrite for signing up for these webinars. There's also going to be some stuff called Gov2Gov training, which is, again, based on some feedback from the hybrid training that OPM did last summer. It's really designed for federal employees. But with that being said, we record everything and then we post it, and there's another link for the link. So, please go and sign up. We'd love to have you. And then, if you miss something, our guys and gals over at Communications have done a really nice job of taking our agendas for each of those webinars, chaptering the YouTube videos out. So if you're like, hey, I just want to learn about early career talent, or I just want to learn about pooled hiring, you can go right to it. You don't have to sit through, my introduction, which is the same largely for the webinars, and the admin remarks. You can just go right to the meat of the thing. So again, encourage you to sign up, tell your friends and family. The links will go out, and again, you can watch the additional ones. So why did we want to build a playbook? Well, we were building on the vision of a workforce of the future that's inclusive, agile, and engaged with the right skills to enable mission delivery. And I think this is pretty all-encompassing. We wanted this playbook to really help support agencies. We understand that recruitment, Terry touched on this a little bit in her intro, right? Recruiting, hiring, build diversity is tough, right? It's not an easy thing to do. And so we're trying to give people tools, and frankly, we're trying to make people and agencies aware of what's out there and provide them, hey, that agency is really doing a nice thing. Can we port that over to us? How can we do this at scale? So all of this is based on this vision of that agile, engaged, inclusive with the right skills, and building a better government for everyone. So that's where sort of the heart of this whole thing is at. I think it's a righteous mission, and I think we should all be a part of it, and that's why I'm excited to keep doing that. So what's the purpose, right? OPM is committed, and again, this comes down from, I've been at OPM for almost 6 years, right? And when I first got here, it was kind of like, hey, OPM is sort of this overseer, this sort of big headquarters level unit that goes and tells people what to do, and we publish regulation and policy, and then everybody looks at us and goes, why'd you do that, right? I have seen a distinct shift from that sort of oversight kind of big brother type thing to collaborative, engaging. Let's go work with our customers. Let's listen to what they have to say. And that's really what we're trying to do. So we're committed in those areas: policy and resources, research and evaluation, training, technical assistance, data, and stakeholder engagement, right? Really committed to doing those and to providing some really good resources for agencies, as opposed to just being like, we're OPM, we know what we're doing, so come and do it, right? So I think the key word, partnership, right? We want to partner with the agencies. We also want to partner with the private sector as well, too, to the max extent possible. I know the director had some great roundtables. I think it was about a year and a half ago. A lot of private sector folks really trying to pull that stuff in there as well, too, right? And the bottom line is not just taking that input and saying we did it, right? But really using that to help craft policies and guidance and all that sort of stuff, right? I'm not saying that everything we hear can go into it, right? Not at all. But at least we're taking into consideration, and we're not talking to ourselves, right? It's not just a bunch of people at OPM sitting around somewhere going, what should we do here? Hey, let's bring in some other folks from diverse backgrounds and thinking about the future and what would work better and stuff like that. We might not be able to put it all in, but there might be some brilliant ideas that we can, and that's really the goal. So work in progress. It's a journey, right? We're not there yet. So you can still feel free to give us some constructive feedback. We're willing to take it, but I've seen that distinct shift, and I do want to shout out Kieran, who I know is leaving. Her last day is tomorrow, but she's been instrumental in that. And I do think that OPM with Rob Shriver at the helm for the next foreseeable future is going to be great for the agency as well too. So it's really cool to kind of see an agency that was kind of sort of stuck to some extent and really, frankly, on the verge of being eliminated to really thriving and really being a helpful agency. Again, we're not there yet, but we're really making an effort at it. So let's get into the playbook a little bit. Structure, right? So what we wanted to do was too often you pick something up and you've got just this mishmash of stuff, and we're like, no, that's not going to work. We wanted people to pick up something that was useful. So we came up with a structure, and these were sort of the 7 elements that we felt were important for agencies and for people to not only understand what was going on, get the information out of it, but also apply it, right? So you've got the play, like, what is it? The definition. Why does it matter? Why are we actually giving you this information? Why do we think what's our vision for it? There's a current state of where we're currently at, and what's our vision for the future? I think that's critical. We definitely wanted to go out to the agencies, and we did. What are the promising practices? What can agencies share with other agencies to ensure that they're doing things better? What are the tools and resources that are already out there that maybe people and hiring managers and whatever are not aware of, right? Here's a bunch of links. Here's a bunch of stuff that maybe you weren't aware of. Now you can go and take a look at it. And the cool part about it is most of those things, while we don't put points of contact in the playbook, most of those links and pages and resources have points of contact. You can reach out and find somebody, an email or something. We want to call to action. What can you do now? And then metrics to consider. I would stress consider. None of the metrics are in the playbook. At least OPM is not tracking them. What we were doing was just saying, hey, if you wanted to kind of track how you're doing with this play, here's something to consider. It's by no means the be-all, end-all of it. There could be some other ones that we haven't thought of. And if there are, send them our way so we can update it. But here's some metrics, because we want to make sure that this is actionable, not just a piece of shelfware that Eric spent a lot of time and working on. Here you go. And then someone puts a potted plant underneath it to make sure they don't get water stains on their desk, right? Not what I wanted it to do. Recognize it's a PDF. It makes a great coaster, but that's not what we want to do. We wanted application. So that's why we came up with the framework. So this is great. I'm going to show, I threw this graphic up. This is really cool. And I'm giving credit where credit is due. This was the Federal News Network. And I know the press isn't on here, but if they were, I would give them a huge shout out to this. Literally within like 4 hours of release, they came up with this really cool infographic. And I was like, wow, I wish I had done it. I'm just not that creative. But just really kind of put it in perspective and listed all of the 12 plays that were out there. Just put a really nice, concise graphic together. So and then wrote a really nice story on what we did and what OPM is trying to do too. So that was really cool. I want to give credit, but it's a cool thing, and we're using it all the time now. So thank you, Federal News Network, for allowing us to do that. And I want to give credit where credit is due, because they came up with this. But that is an overview of all of the plays. There's 12 of them, and I'm going to go through them in a little bit more detail. And again, raise your hand or ask questions if you do. So here we go. All right. So under right skills, there was 5 of them. Strategic workforce planning, strategic recruitment, skills-based hiring, pooled hiring, and then integration of AI. And I'm going to go into each of these a little bit differently. But this was sort of our pillar that says we need a workforce of the future that's going to have the right skills. How do we get those into government, right? And it does start with planning. It starts with thinking about the future. It does start with targeting the right people to hire into government. It does start with, hey, what's the old paradigm of people who get into government, right? This whole, you got to have a degree. Not saying it's bad to have a degree. I got 2 of them, but hey, there's a whole different paradigm shift with different skills and certifications. Maybe we can think about skills-based hiring, and we are. Pooled hiring. How do we sort of reinvigorate the hiring process so that we can hire off a single cert at multiple agencies and do these types of things, make the hiring process more efficient? And then AI was a big one that was coming up, obviously with ChatGPT and some of these LLMs. How do we integrate AI into some of these processes? So I'm gonna go over these just a little bit more in depth here. So strategic workforce planning, this is where we wanted to prioritize long-term planning. And my favorite, of course, is strategic foresight. That's me. And so I think that if we can begin to embed these into the fabric of workforce planning and frankly planning across government, that will be great, right? And so what we looked at was like, why are we doing this, right? Generally speaking, we found that planning was decentralized, not a lot of expertise, resource misalignment, and we're not looking at gaps, right? So what do we want to do? We want to enhance that capability. We want to use data to drive decisions. We want to think about how we can curate, use our data, use horizon scanning to think about what our future needs will be. And we want to use strategic foresight in the decision-making process. And by that, I mean really thinking about the future, what is going to be impactful to the workforce, and getting that message in front of decision makers, right? So we recognize there's a bit of a challenge here, and we wanted to put forth sort of that vision. And this is how I'm going to sort of structure this whole thing: is go, why is this play important? And then I'm going to go with what's the vision for the play as well too. There's a lot more in obviously every one of these plays, but that's sort of what I wanted to focus on and sort of give you a chunk into each one of them. The next one that we thought about was strategic recruitment, right? And so strategic recruitment this is the one where it's like everybody goes out and goes, I need to fill a position. We go and we slap something up on USA Jobs. We use official jobs titles that sound all cool to us, but mean nothing to a younger generation. And we just hope that applicants with the right skills are going to find it in this massive USA Jobs platform, which is good. I'm not discounting USA Jobs, but it's really like finding a needle in a haystack, right? And so what ends up happening is you get this sort of pray that it goes on USA Jobs and you get an applicant. Now, what's interesting is you can throw something up on USA Jobs and you're probably going to get a lot of applicants. The question is, do you get the applicants with the right skills so that you're not wasting a bunch of time on the back end going through resumes and you're like, come on, this is, it said strategic planning. So they threw something in there and they used the word strategic 19 times in their resume, and that's why they got through, right? This is not good, right? So where do we want to go from here, right? We want agencies to be proactive. We want them to use strategic recruitment. We want to get people interested in the positions. We want to get people with the right skills applying. We want to use, there's a talent portal out there where you can like mine resumes that are on USA Jobs already. You can send proactive things out to applicants and say, hey, I've got this vacancy. You seem like a really good candidate. Why don't you come work for it, right? It's almost like sort of this informal sort of networking that we're all engaged in, and getting people to find out about interesting jobs that are out there, right? The other thing too that really I think needs to happen is plain language and descriptive job titles, right? Sometimes you get people that post something up there and they want a data analyst, but they just have the standard, they don't even have the job title in there, and people are searching for data analyst or whatever the case may be, data scientist. And they're not finding it because they're not looking for the right stuff. Like, well, I posted on USA Jobs. Yeah, but you didn't use the right language. People have got to do this. So being targeted and really using some plain language. So when you get the graduates, the early career talent that are looking at this going, hey, I'm finding a list of jobs that are going to meet my skill set, right? And we want to try and increase the number of applicants that have the skill set, and obviously decrease the number of resumes that we have to sift through, right? So this is where we're kind of going with strategic recruitment at all. And I think we've got a webinar coming up on this that's going to go a lot more in depth into what I'm doing here in the not too distant future. All right, third play is to post and pray, timeless recruiting tactic. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there you go. Exactly, right? So Kevin, I see that cyber codes and search that data, right? So again, this is the idea behind this is hopefully giving agencies some freedom to like put some stuff in their job announcements that's going to get those, for lack of a better word, algorithms kind of humming those search things and get people to hone in on where they need to be, right? Rather than just looking and the post and pray, right? All right. Next, skills-based hiring. This one I think is huge, right? I think we've all applied for a job on probably USA Jobs, and we've all had the list of questions that have come up, right? And I've done it too, and I think we've all sit there. It used to be, are we good? Is my screen gone? My screen is gone.
Gonna say your screen just stopped sharing.
Hold on. I will reshare. I know I just saw it go out real quick here. No worries. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but off we go. Is that better?
Not
Yes
yet.
or no?
Not yet.
Uh-oh. It says I'm screen sharing.
I'm
I'm
still,
good.
I'm seeing
I
it.
can see it. Yeah.
You can see it? Are we good?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hopefully, John, hopefully you can see it as well too. We'll see what happens. But if y'all can see the screen, yeah, see it. Okay, we're looking good. Okay, I'm gonna keep going until everybody starts yelling at me that says it's black. Okay, so skills-based hiring, right? So I think we've all been in that situation where we're applying for a job and everybody's in this. And of course, we all know, or at least it's common knowledge or whatever. Hey, if I don't hit 5 on all of these things, that I'm an expert and the best thing since sliced bread, I'm never going to make it through the next round. So people incorrectly assess themselves, recognizing, hey, if I get to the interview or whatever, and I am not implying that anybody is lying or being dishonest. By no means am I saying that whatsoever. What I'm saying is that people understand that you may have people that click on this thing, in their mind, they're the expert, maybe they're not, and then you wind up with the resume or whatever, and all of a sudden you have large numbers of unqualified people, right? So what do we want to do? Hey, we want to look at skills-based. Hey, what skills do you have? Not necessarily the degree. We want to look at different multi-hurdle assessments, right? Eliminate those self-assessments, right? Give you, hey, these are the people I want. Let's give them an assessment, right? This will hopefully help higher quality candidates be identified by HR. This is going to hopefully reduce the amount of burden that people are sifting through these resumes that don't really necessarily mean anything, and we're going to get higher quality hires. And again, I think that part of the benefit of this as well too is if we reduce the burden on our HR staff to get these higher quality hires in here, we might be able to get the hiring process moved along, right? And so there's a bunch of different processes that we can sort of shrink, and the less burden on our HR hiring staff, if we're focused on the higher qualified candidates, maybe we can move them along forward. Again, Terry mentioned that in her remarks, like, hey, if it takes, 80 days or something to hire someone's going to be like, I need a job and I'm going to go elsewhere. So we've got to think about those things and find ways to not only get people on board quicker, get the people with the right skills on board quicker, and also communicate that we're working really hard. And I think communication is part of this as well too, to get through the process and keep people going. So this one I think is huge, and I definitely think that for a lot of different occupational series, this is critical because listen, you've got a bunch of certifications, say in cybersecurity or something like that. You might be a really good candidate for maybe someone who spent 4 years in school and doesn't have quite those certifications, right? So again, providing some flexibility to really get some folks on board with government in the right area. Closely aligned with that is, I gotta get the tech working again. Hold on, where's my mouse? There we go. Is pooled hiring. And this one, I think, is one of those things that if we leverage this correctly in government, this could transform the way that we're able to hire at agencies, but across government, right? So what's typically happened, and I think we can all attest to this, I need to fill a vacancy. I throw something out there, and everybody's throwing out a job announcement, and I've got to apply to every single one of them. And here we go. And then what ends up happening is you get a bunch of applicants who are left on the cutting room floor, so to speak, but they might have been qualified, but they've got to go and apply to a gazillion different jobs, same one, different agencies, right? So what do we hope to achieve at this one? And there's been success doing this is, hey, let's get a common cert out there. Let's get people to apply to it. Let's work together as agencies and across our departments and go, look at this. We've got a bunch of qualified candidates on one cert. Now the hiring manager can go and say, Commerce, I'll pick that one. GSA, I'm going to pick that one. Right? Obviously maintaining and in keeping with all applicable laws and regulation, right? But having a pool of candidates that we can pick from that we know are qualified that can fill it, right? And again, hopefully this will lead to some more strategic and innovative recruiting, and obviously the use of technology and stuff to do as well too. Private sector doesn't have this problem nearly to the magnitude of the government, even when factoring in volume of positions to fill. Why aren't we modeling our process more like theirs? So that's a great question, Laura. I think we are trying to some extent. I'm not directly related to HR or hiring, but I think to a large extent we are trying to do this, recognizing that there are regulations, there are laws, there's the merit system promotion. I mean, all of these different things that we have to contend with that maybe some of the private sector doesn't. So part of it is what I'm optimistic about is the conversations are happening, and we're trying to work and maneuver. Hey, how does the private sector do this better? And then how do we kind of fit that into, how can we take parts of it or whatever they're doing good, but also fit into the existing framework? And hey, if things need to be changed, let's think about at least changing them, right? So while I can't say that, yes, we're going to do this right off the bat, because that would be wrong of me and I would be speaking off the cuff, so I can't say that, but I do know that people are thinking about that. And that was one of the reasons why the director had those conversations with the private sector to say, what are y'all doing, right? And do that kind of stuff. So I like that idea too there, Joe, live talent pools. That's kind of a cool idea in the commercial world. That's pretty neat. Yeah, so I think we're moving in the right direction. As government is slow sometimes, but I think we're going to get there, and I'm happy to see that it's being spoken about. We've got a play out there that's like, we're actually starting something, right? Remember I said this was foundational. So let's continue to build on it. And what I would love to see is, again, and I'll get to, is we're going to try and update the playbook. We're going to try and release more plays. Is, hey, listen, if there's a way to add on to the pooled hiring portion of it, hey, we could do X, Y, or Z. This is something that I would love to do, and hopefully we can kind of get it in government. So, and thanks, Lori, for skills based. Yeah, I think it is moving in the right direction, and we're doing the best we can. Thank you, Joe. Pooled hiring is an awesome move. I appreciate that. So, all right, let's see. Next one. Integration of AI technology. I could probably speak a lot about this, and I have some examples that I'll speak about here. Is again, it's new it's new. AI is not new, but the fact that people have access to really cool AI stuff is new, right? So I had a great presentation from an AI guy who's been involved in the space for decades. Well, AI has been around for 4 years when ChatGPT came out. Wrong. It's been around for a long time. It's just all of a sudden they trained a model and said, and now you can use it public, right? So it's been around there for a bit. What we're trying to do, though, with this is, recognize that it's out there. Hold on one second, Robin, I'll take that for advisement. Pooled hiring. I just wrote it down. I will ask some folks on that one too. So what we're doing is, we're recognizing that AI is out there, it's influential, and it can be used for a lot of good. And we would like to see how we can integrate it to make our processes a bit more efficient, right? Because now here's the thing, here's the rub, right? Is these models get trained. We got to be careful about uploading things to the model to summarize that's proprietary in the government, yada, yada. There's a lot of things, and there's a lot of hurdles that we need to go through. And I think that, the administration. I think that folks at different agencies, certainly the AI executive order that just came out, recognize that there is an issue and that we should be using AI. Where I think the problem is, and this is where I hope that we do a better job of across government, is educating people on what AI is and what it isn't. This is my own opinion, but I think AI and these models that have come out are really good interns. So you can give, if you had a really awesome intern that you just hired, AI is kind of like that, right? You can have it summarize stuff. You can have it provide some initial thoughts or talking points or whatever, right? The other thing that it does a really good job at is it's a really good, it expands things really well. So if I've got a whole bunch of different ideas about a certain topic, asking it to go, hey, here's a bunch of ideas. Can you put this in a collective, coherent narrative? I would like to, do this. It'll do a pretty nice job at that, right? Me personally, when I do workshops for foresight, a lot of times the data I get out of people who are doing workshops when they're thinking about the future is a bunch of bullet points about what the future might look like given some constraints. And I've had really good success of taking those bullet points and asking the AI to weave it into a coherent scenario of what the future might look like, whether that's prose or whether it's just a description of the future. So there's ways that we can do this, right? But we have to be careful and we have to be educated on what it can and cannot do. What AI doesn't do a good job of, and if for those of you who are more AI experts on this, you can just use, is making inferences, right? So if we say, hey, what are the impacts to the Department of Homeland Security if AI is a people pleaser, and largely it'll probably give you a bunch of BS, right? Because it'll want to make you happy, right? It really will. And this is documented, right? You can ask AI, hey, what are the laws that have been passed on AI in the last 5 years? It'll give you a list of laws, even though none have been passed. So my point is like we have to be educated on how to use it, and then how do we integrate it better into our daily process? Can we use it to summarize resumes? Can we do that in a fair and equitable way, right? So there's a lot of different things that we have to think about when we do this, but I'm excited that government is thinking, hey, new technology, right? We need to integrate it, but we want to do it right, and we want to do it responsible, right? Let me see here, Joe. Absolute biggest value of AI is used by unintentional bias in the hiring process. Yeah, and so I think that Joe would be a fantastic way to. I think that would be a fantastic way to do it if we can make sure that it's actually doing what it says it's going to do, right? So a couple other things too is the pilot equal human plus tech or tech only. Develop human apprentice pilot to improve the minimum testing candidates for federal jobs by improving the workflow and using AI. So here's what I would say on AI, and I'll kind of close out the point as well too is, yes, use it for a bunch of different cool stuff, but always have a human in the loop, right? So when I use it to do anything, and I summarize articles I found from the internet to think about the future, build a scenario over here based on some input from some workshop participants, right? The critical part to all of that is to kind of go back, reread, understand what it's given you, and make adjustments as necessary. There's got to be a human in the loop, right? We can't just have AI, hey, I created some talking points and send them to your director. Bad idea. You want to read them, because I guarantee you there's probably something in there that, if not false, it's probably true, is not written the way that it needs to be written, right? It's not communicated the way. So let's use the tool. Let's try and integrate it into government to max extent possible. Let's become more efficient. Let's do it in a responsible way that's going to make our lives easier and also not open us up to a bunch of stuff that we don't need. So again, I'm optimistic about it. I think we have a long way to go, and I could talk probably for a lot about AI, how I'm using it in the job that I'm doing, but I've got to move on because otherwise I'm going to run out of time here. So, all right. Next. All right. So those are the first plays for sort of the right skills. Those were not all encompassing. If there's more, send them my way. You got my email address. Hey, Eric, I think a great play would be, I just need the title, and then we'll start working on it, right? We'll get you involved too, so you can do some of the work. All right. So the next part of it was agile and engaged. And there was 4 underneath this one here. Organizational health, right? How is our organizations doing? How are agencies doing? Employee health and well-being. This has been an ongoing theme in workforce and workforce management for a long time, and I think it's only getting more prominent given our new sort of world that we work in. Virtual, less in-person, less connection sometimes to humans, yada yada yada. I know I've talked to John O'Doon about this a lot, where this is critically important to the way humans are wired and designed. We got to think about ourselves a lot. Data-driven workforce decisions. I'll talk a little bit about this, but hey, how do we use data, good data, right? Curated data, clean data to make good decisions, because garbage in, garbage out. And I think there's some really good work going on there. And then this one I think is critical, career pathing and employee development. If we are going to get the workforce of the future inside the government, they need to know that there is a path and a way for them to move up the ladder. They need to know that they're going to be taken care of, and that they have a sort of a path and a way through government from when entry level intern all the way up. What I find awesome is hearing the stories of people in government who are at higher level positions, who started off as interns at this agency and now they're the SES at this agency. That model should be with every employee. I'm coming in, where can I go from here? And how do I get the skills needed? So let me go over these in a little bit more detail. All right, organizational health. This to me is, if you don't have a healthy organization, you are not going to be accomplish your mission. And there is, you're not going to, the performance is going to go down. If your work environment stinks, bad things happen, right? This, I think, is I mean, there's data to back this up, right? I'll harken back to the military. Every time there was like a toxic work environment or a toxic commander that just sort of brought the whole unit down, right? Bad things happened. Mishaps went up. People didn't want to show up to work. Morale was low. The list is legion, right? So as we think about our organizational health and we think about how things are, this is critical, right? We also want to make sure that we're getting results, right? So our vision for this is, hey, we want to get results. We want policy to be driven by performance and results. We want to identify metrics to measure that organizational health, and then we want to use that to be able to deliver on the mission better. And this is across agencies and across government, right? So yes, we want to make sure that we're doing our mission, but there's things that we can measure that will help people make better decisions. I just had a briefing with USAID. If there's any USAID folks on here, y'all have a great organizational health dashboard. It's fantastic. Now, it's internal to USAID, but my goodness, you guys have done a nice job. Now, they've been building it for 4 years, but it's great. If you get an opportunity to see it, find somebody in USAID who can give you the peek behind the curtain, but it's really good. I think we should probably all, aspire to something like that, where we can all have measures of organizational health that will point out the strong points. And again, I think this is critical for leadership. Where are my weak points? Where are we failing a little bit? That's important too. How do we fix it? How do we go to that? So this to me is another big thing. And again, this is probably a bit nascent in government, unfortunately. But I think it's critical that we think about organizational health and where we want to go from here. This is one of the plays I can see building on a lot more than what's already been done. Employee health and well-being. I've touched on this a little bit. I'll touch on this even more. This is where we looked at different agencies, and across agencies, quality, the extent of what they had was just, there's a lot of variance, right? A lot of stuff was classified under employee assistance program. There's a stigma associated to that sometimes. I think that's going away, which is good, but it's not gone yet, and it needs to be gone. And then there wasn't a whole lot of measurement tools out there measuring your program effectiveness. I mean, yes, you can measure how many people went to EAP. That's a number, but how effective is it at actually making your employee a better employee? Are they getting the help that they need? And so what's the vision for this play? We want agencies to strive to offer resources, right? Under employee health and well-being. And we want there to be ample providers, not just in the sort of the standard one, but think about different cultural differences that we have. And we also want people to be able to, agencies to target sort of those resources at different people, right? Again, a healthy environment, a healthy workforce is critical. And again, this is what I love about the fact that not that our director is leaving, but why she's leaving government. She's been a great director at OPM. She's leaving for health and well-being reasons. She's putting her family above the job, above running OPM at, in my opinion, a critical time. She's walking the walk. And that to me is huge, because too often we can pay lip service to this, but we got to have leadership out there saying, nope, I'm doing this. And this is what it means to be good. So for my team, you know, I have made it very clear to them, to the 4 people that I supervise, you know, if you need time off, if you need mental health breaks, if you need to, let me know. I want to know about it, but I want you healthy, because 3 hours off to get your head right is better than you trying to work for 3 hours with you in the wrong headspace, trying to get something done that is probably not going to get done right. Take care of yourself. The rest of us can help out. We need to be a family here and pick up the slack. So again, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's Mindful Fed. There's a whole bunch of resources in the guidebook about this. Really important topic. And then the final thing that I'll hit on is humans are social creatures. And I know we're all in this virtual space. Personally, I would rather be in a room with all y'all somewhere where I could do this in person. I recognize that the workforce of the future has to do these things, but I also recognize we're social animals, and we need to be together. And just getting together on Zoom meetings, you know, from your office somewhere, it's gonna have an impact on you as well too. So I would encourage folks to come out and, to the max extent possible, get out there, meet with your colleagues, do stuff in person as much as you can. Also recognizing you can be efficient in your office as well too. So again, that's just me. You wouldn't know it, but I'm an introvert, but I do love getting out there and meeting with people. I just get my rest and relaxation and recharge my batteries by being quiet at home and chilling out. So let's see, Robin, hurt succession planning level, if there isn't a healthy balance, absolutely, right? 100%. Totally agree with you there, Robin. You know, you've got to model the behavior, right? The employee health and well-being is something that our senior leaders have got to model. If they don't, again, it's lip service. Well, you know, you say it's important, but then when I asked for some time off because, you know, whatever happened, you told me, no, you get an hour or something. I mean, yes, that has got to go. I always love to say this, my opinion only, is like, when I take leave, when I went off to Colorado to Montana to go skiing. I'm taking a trip to Poland because there's a wedding going over there. I'm gone for a week, right? Okay. I always tell, there's someone acting for me, I turn everything off. The government is not going to cease to function because Eric goes to Europe for 6 days or Eric goes skiing in Montana. It'll be here when you get back. Take some time for yourself, recharge your batteries, and the government will be here when you get back. I guarantee it. And if it's not, we have much bigger problems in health and well-being. I can guarantee you that. So I'll move on. Let's see, next one. Okay, data-driven workforce decisions. This is where, when I did a project with the CFO Council 4 years ago, they identified that data was going to be a significant impact to the financial management workforce. And what they also identified was that data is great, and having data is awesome, and collecting data is great, and we all love to do it, and I'm a big spreadsheet guy too. However, if you're collecting poor data, or the data is not cleaned, or it's not curated properly, or whatever, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? And so what we found was there's a lot of data is delayed, a lot of data is siloed, and there's a significant lack of data literacy and data visualization skills, which I know we're changing, but there is, right? But what do we want to do about it, right? What's the vision, right? What I've noticed, and I'm going to speak anecdotally from an OPM perspective, is our data management, our data curation, our data visualization has gone up exponentially since I joined 5.5-ish years ago, right? Now the dashboards, there's a wonderful one on, if you go to opm.gov//data, whole data portal, there's all kinds of interesting stuff. You can slice and dice the data any way you see fit. It's a great way to visualize what's going on. It's also a great way to see where you can make improvements and stuff, right? So again, what we want to do is, number one, use the data correctly to make good decisions. And number two, and this is a little bit of a harder sell. Thank you, John, appreciate it. This is a bit of a harder sell, is getting the rank and file and, in my opinion, more importantly, the executives to understand how to read data properly and how to make good decisions and how to visualize it correctly, right? So that is a skill set we all should be striving for. Just for my own personal thing, what I've taken the time to do is I have started, and again, this is just all sort of self-taught on YouTube and the internet, is building Power Apps on the Microsoft platform, and then taking those Power Apps, gathering some data from a data set, whatever that might be, and then going to Power BI and trying to build a dashboard. I am not a dashboard builder. This is not what I do. This is not my skill set. But I'll tell you what, just the thinking about it and the analytics and looking at it and going, how can I take this data and make it look good so I don't have to go to a massive spreadsheet and create my own charts, is really an awesome skill. So I'd encourage all folks to do that. Does a couple things. One, improves you as a skill. Number two, it's really cool to be able to show your boss, hey, what's up? Here's a dashboard that I built and created or something like that. Now you can see it, boss, and it automatically updates, yada, 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 right? So again, encourage you, use the data, learn about it, but also get it in front of the decision makers as well too, so they can make better decisions as well. All right. I think the final one under Agile and Engaged was career pathing and employee development. This I've also seen grow by leaps and bounds in the federal government. CFO Council came up with the career pathing and training tool, where you can kind of chart your course in the financial management. DOI, I'm going to shout them out. They have a My DOI Careers page. I just got a brief from the Army that has a whole mentoring career pathing thing internal to the Army about how you can kind of look and set goals for yourself and find some trainings and all that kind of stuff and find the competencies that you need. Again, I think too often the current state of this has been, there's no clarity on how I go from where I am at a GS9 all the way to GS15 or an SES or something. Where do I go from here? And it's sort of like this OJT, and someone told me I need to do this and I did it on my own. What if we could, hey, modernize how we're building our career paths, understand the new workforce that's coming in here, what they expect, and then take advantage of all those opportunities for growth, right? And also having agencies support the idea that, hey, if I went over to wherever agency, I could learn this skill set for 6 months, come back and apply it to my agency as well too, right? Yeah, Kevin, I think you're right? IDPs, like, we need to take it upon ourselves, right? But it just seems to me that it's sort of interspersed, and do you use an IDP or not? Could we do better at this? Could we do better and bring in talent? And then when they come into the government, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, go, all right, you're here. We recognize you kind of entered sort of at the bottom. Maybe you're an intern, maybe you're a GS5, but here is the way that you can go up the ladder. We got detail opportunities. We've got training over here for you. We've got competencies, yada, yada, all of that. And I think if you showed someone then sort of that career roadmap and said, this is what you need to do to kind of get ahead, it would be helpful, right? Military does this to a point, and I'm not talking about an up or out system. That is the military, but they do it to a point, right? I understood when I was in the military, these are the things I need to do if I wanted to promote and kind of get higher in the organization. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Right? Yeah, this is critical to Gen Z employees, right? The younger generations coming in, this is critical. They want to know that their work matters. They want to know that it's meaningful. They want to know that they can make a difference and affect change. And by showing them how they can be in a position to do that, I think is going to be a huge attraction for the federal government. So again, this is where I think we need to focus on, again, foundational here, but playbook, there's some great resources in there. Here's how you can go about doing it. And again, there's some really good examples of this as well too. All right, the final play, and I think one of the more important ones, final pillar was inclusive, right? Again, talking about early career talent, which I've mentioned a lot about, fostering an inclusive work environment, and then getting that outreach strategy to some of the places that we traditionally have not done some outreach to. So I'll go over each one of these, and then I'll probably have some time for some Q&A because I'm looking at the clock here. So early career talent, I think we've talked a lot about this. And this is where it's kind of cool because these plays aren't standalone, right? So to me, it's like, hey, can we, merge a play with something else, right? And so I think if you're appropriately using this, you're not just taking one play, you're taking 2 or 3 and sort of putting them together and going, how can we leverage all of them, right? It's like a video game, right? You merge the 2 things together, you get a super power up or whatever. Same sort of thing, right? Let's take these things together. And again, early career talent is one of those ones where, yeah, we called it out, kind of flows through every single one of them, right? Because that's ultimately the future of the workforce of the future that we want to bring in, right? But typically, governments view these as short-term hires. They don't necessarily incorporate them well into their workforce planning or set aside positions. Now, I think the administration did a nice job about paying interns and that sort of stuff, so this is good. But again, this is where we can begin to bring people in where there's mission critical gaps. This is where, and again, new pathways regulations just came out. Hooray for OPM. Paid internships, pathways programs, all of these things to get these folks in the door and really get that future workforce in here. And I think it's critical for outreach. And again, I've seen a ton of comments about, Gen Z and stuff. Again, we have to look at who's going to be coming into government. We've got to go out there and do some recruitment and really engage them in how they're doing this. The next one is inclusive work environment, right? This one I always foot stomp a ton, not just because I've been working on DEIA initiatives for the last 3 years, but this is where I think it's critical because a workforce and an agency that has diverse perspectives from different people and from the way that they live their lives and who they're from and where they're from is critical. If we don't do this, it's just to the detriment of our organizations, right? So DEI principles, all of these things need to be sort of woven into it. I'll give one quick example of why diversity of thought is so critical and why demographics and DEI is important. I was at a workshop. We were talking about the future of education, and we were sitting around there, and we're thinking. We came up with this brilliant idea to. This is before COVID. I have to give you some context. Hey, let's send everybody home with a computer and an iPad. We'll do virtual learning. It's awesome. We have this great high-speed internet. It's fantastic. Now, for someone like me who is currently standing in front of 3 monitors on government internet, and at home I've got 3 as well on my own internet, which is high speed because my son likes to game. So I've got like this super gigabyte whatever that I pay for, largely for his gaming. Right? That works, right? And oh, by the way, I'm a pretty good online person, right? But we had a wonderful lady who raised her hand and said she worked in inner cities with underserved populations and minorities. And she said, that sounds great, but you recognize that not everybody has high-speed internet. Some people, you give them an iPad, it will be stolen inside of 5 minutes because of where they live. And oh, by the way, they have a whole bunch of other issues that they're dealing with, and both parents have to work and they can't leave their kids at home to learn on the internet. Okay. That really impacted me. Why did it impact me? Because it showed me the importance of getting different opinions about things that you're going to do, whether that's a government policy, whether that's an initiative you're planning on doing, whether it's a presentation, whatever the case may be, leaning into someone and saying, hey, can you just give me a read on this? Because they're going to come up with things that I would never have thought about. And that is really and vitally important. If we are in the business of leaving a government for the people that are coming up, and we want to leave a good government or good corporation or whatever the case may be, and we do not bring in a diverse group of people to shape that future and shape where we're going, my utopia, which I thought was great, turns into someone's dystopia, and we leave huge swaths of people behind. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable anywhere, not just government. It's unacceptable anywhere. So this play, to me, is critically important to ensuring that we are looking at diversity as an asset and that we are engaging people to ensure that their thoughts are heard as we shape and chart our future in government together. Critically important that, and dovetailing into it, is outreach strategy, right? So how do we go out and get some diversity? How do we go out and we get people that are at different places where we haven't traditionally recruited from, right? So typically, it's been like, let's get the standard, let's find the standard, whatever the college fairs go to wherever, or the job fairs go wherever, something like that. I think this is looking out there and going, not only do some people have necessary skills, but we also have schools that we have not traditionally gone to. I think one of the ones that came up, which was really cool that I thought in this work, was community colleges. Because we've always been 4-year degree. We got to have this, we got to have that. And the whole community colleges, trade schools, this sort of stuff has been completely left by the wayside. That's an awesome place for talent, for young talent, for certifications, for people that have skills. Again, we're combining this skills-based hiring, that kind of stuff, right? Hugely important. So again, and the other thing too that I think this also is like, how did we typically recruit? Right? We talked about USA Jobs, sort of post and pray, right? Social media, all of these new ways that the younger generation kind of communicates and stuff, right? We gotta leverage all that. Government's got to do that. How do we do that in an efficient and an effective way? And I also think that part of this as well too is partnership with private sector as well too. Can we find some ways to sort of move people in and out of private sector and government to, I get some skills here, I'm going to come in over here, I'm going to go back over here, da 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 da. I look at John and I go, that's a great thing. John was in private sector. Now he's in government. It's awesome. Totally different perspective. Now he's in government. Perspective comes into government. We can do things differently. Love it. This is what we need to do. Okay. Let me just look, strengthen our federal workforce. Yes. An initiative underway to strengthen cross-agency mobility to allow government. Oh, that's a great question. Yeah. So a couple things on that. I think that we are definitely trying to strengthen sort of detail opportunities, really make those available to people. I think a lot of that's agency dependent. I think we could do a better job of sort of collaborating on that. Another really awesome platform that I have used multiple times is called Open Opportunities. This is a fantastic way to post something. Hey, I need some, I think you go up to like 20% of their time, if I'm not mistaken. I need somebody for 80 hours over the next 3 months to do X, Y, or Z. I don't have the skills in my office to do it, but I know someone who does. We did this with the playbook. So I asked someone to do some layout for me and do some graphics for me. I didn't have the skills to do it. I can't do any of this stuff. I went on Open Opportunities. We found somebody over at National Park Service. He does this, got him to do 40, 50 hours of work for me. Boom, we've got it. And that was a detail opportunity. He got a chance to showcase his skills, to learn something, to do something with another agency. And we got a great product. And I got a chance to say, hey, JP, great job. Here's a letter of appreciation to your boss that says you crushed it. So Open Opportunities is a really great way. Yes, Open Opportunities, great skills, gig economy, 100%. It's fantastic. So that's another. So I think it's working there, and Open Opportunities is expanding as well too. Could we do better? 100%. But we're getting there. So again, it's hugely critical, and I would definitely say the more we can work together with agencies, the more we can collaborate together, the better off we'll all be. All right, so that does it for the plays. I've got a few additional slides, I think. Here's some next steps that we're planning on doing. I am really wanting to update the playbook, right? Again, as I mentioned before, yes, it's a PDF document, but I don't want it to be a potholder. So we're collecting data from our webinars. We're collecting suggestions on additional plays. I'm kind of going through that stuff. We're doing some data analysis on it. Hey, what do you guys want to see more of? We are going to continue to do webinars, technical assistance, training. So Terry, if you need me to do this again in 6 months because we've done some additional stuff, happy to do it. There's some webinars available to all government employees. And again, we do post the links to watch them on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. We're trying to collect that feedback. And I do not want this to be, I'm going to foot stomp this again. I do not want this to be a stagnant document. I do want it to be a living document. And at some point in time, I am going to force our Office of Communications to put it on the web somehow and make it a little bit more interactive. We're getting there. I can't do it all. I can't boil the ocean, but I'm going to give it my best shot. Here are some potential future plays that we're exploring. If you have more, let me know. Customer experience. We think that we can do some expansion on what's going on around government. We heard a lot of people go, I want to learn about direct hire authority. I don't necessarily know. Again, these are all notional, so I'm not saying they're going to come out. We heard a lot of people about direct hire authority. I'm thinking, maybe I could work with that and get some interesting stuff out there. Framework foresight, thinking about the future a little bit. Want to expand a little bit more in strategic workforce planning and kind of take it in the more future lens. I know that's my thing, so I get to pick and choose some topics. Skills gaps research. This was one that people have asked us about. Like, hey, we recognize with technology moving as fast as it is, how do we identify skills? What are some of the future skills? Are there some methods that we can do this? So we're thinking about how we can do that. And then there's another one that just came up yesterday, this concept of total worker health, talking about burnout, loneliness, mindfulness, and then suicide prevention as well too. If you look at those 4 topics, and I don't know if they're going to be 4 additional plays or it's going to be one kind of thing. I know there's a lot of topic in there. Burnout is increasing. As I mentioned before, loneliness, people being in front of their computers and not with humans, is increasing. being mindful, the whole mindful Fed thing, and understanding that it's a great resource, but also how do people do it correctly to help with some of the above two. And then this is one that's near and dear to my heart: suicide prevention. Big problem, and it's growing. For me as a veteran, vet suicide is a huge issue, and we need to bring it to an end. But not just vet suicide, suicide in general. So again, these are some of the things that are sort of percolating that people are bringing up, and I would encourage you, if you've got something, hey, there's a really good topic that I would like to think about, or that you would like us to consider, I'm more than happy to. You can email Terry, email me, and more than happy to take it under advisement, and we'll see what we can do. Again, a lot of these here are not going to, we're going to collaborate with other agencies to get the information, right? So it's not just Eric going in there and slamming away at it or telling AI to do it. It's Eric in collaboration with a lot of different agencies to get the right tools, resources, and the data to folks. Here's all the cool press coverage. Again, I'll send these links out to it. We did get some good press coverage, which I thought was pretty cool. ATD just wrote a really nice article on the playbook, so we continue to get it. The other thing, which is really cool, is as I travel, and I don't travel that much, but I was just out in Denver. I got a lot of anecdotal, hey, this is a really good thing, it's a great resource, that sort of stuff. So I appreciate all the positive feedback. I will also appreciate constructive criticism, because I do want to make it better. So if you got something nice to say, thank you, awesome. If you've got something, hey, Eric, we could improve it this way, or this doesn't work, I want to know that as well too, because without constructive feedback, we're not going to move forward. We're not going to get better. So we did get some good press coverage. And again, thanks to Federal News Network for the really nice graphic as well. I think that's about it. The QR code at the beginning was the playbook. The QR code at the end is a really, really quick survey. I think it takes you like 5 minutes. Did I do a good job or did I suck? You can scan on your phone and do it. There's a whole bunch of different people at OPM that use this. I am Strategic Workforce Planning, Future of Work. I'm down about 2/3 of the way. You'll see the question that you have to pick one of them. That's me. But while that's up, if you want to fill the survey out, that'd be great. It'd be much appreciated. I am open to questions, comments, concerns, whatever y'all want. I think we've got another, 20-ish minutes or so, but happy to entertain anything you have. Back to you, Terry.
Do we have any questions from the audience? This is absolutely fantastic. And yes, let's put something on the calendar. I heard you 6 months from now, you can come back and talk about all the new things you've added. So
I will do my best, Terry. Do my best.
I'm sure we'll be calling you back.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see any in the chat, but while people are getting ready to unmute, I'll jump in with one. And this is not really a question, it's more just a +1 foot stomp while people figure out the mute on their side. The intentional human contact.
Yeah.
That's super important. The whole, never mind people who work in federal service, but also in private industry, burnout and isolation and loneliness are all record levels. And finding ways to have people intentionally make contact is just a basic human thing that we need to figure out across the entire country. And it's
John, so it's incredibly important. It's what's interesting is I don't think we recognize the level of importance that it should be in our lives until something happens, right? Until a human is gone from our life, right? That sort of stuff. And then it really hits home. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like I really enjoyed that person's company, or I really, and again, so I do think that, again, we're all social, generally speaking, animals. I am an introvert. I don't get me wrong, you'd probably never know it at work, but it's where I get my energy from, right? But I mean, we do want to go out there and engage and contact with people. The one thing I will say is that's helped me out is being intentional about it. So I will tell you that, I know there's all this return to work stuff on the corporate side and on the government side, right? And sometimes what people have said is, okay, fine, you want me in the office 2 weeks, I'm going to maliciously comply. 2 days a week, I'm going to maliciously comply, and I will be in on Monday and Tuesday. I don't care. So what do? They dutifully come in Monday and Tuesday, and they check the box, and off they go. I have been very open about the way I do it. Is I'm going to come in when I'm going to definitely meet the requirement because that's what I've been told to do. However, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to look at my calendar and I'm going to go, boy, well, John's in town. I kind of want to see him. Terry's in town. Haven't seen her in a while. Want to see her. You know what? If I've got to come in 3 days and brave that commute because I get to see a couple of people face to face I haven't seen in a while and just make that personal connection. I'm going to do that. So I would say that be intentional about doing that stuff. Now, there may be a week where, you know what? Don't need to. It's actually better if I work from home. I'll make it up on the back end, right? Again, inform your boss, tell people what you're doing, but I'm very open about it. And I've gotten people have gotten quizzical looks at me, and I've been like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Now, until you tell me that's wrong and I'm not supposed to do it, then fine. But I'm going to make you do that and tell me that, because I'm going to tell you that the way for my mental health and well-being and for my connections, this is how it works best. There are days I'm in the office 5 days a week. There are weeks that 5 days a week. There are weeks that I come in once, right? It balances out, right? And so I think that as leaders and as people who are doing this, we should think about that, think about our people, and encourage them to be intentional, but why they're coming in and why they're meeting. I'm in here on Thursday. Why? The director's leaving. There's a party. I'd like to go say goodbye to her. Didn't have to come in today, but that's why. And I get to see a bunch of other people because they're all going to be in the office too. So just my thoughts.
No, that's perfect. It's something I'm encouraging elsewhere as well. Yep. Intentional is great.
Yep. Colin, I like that. Talent shouldn't be limited to certain zip codes. Absolutely not. Should not be. And I'm not sure exactly which direction you're going with this. I'm going to go with it and down the human interaction road. I think critically important, remote workers are great, but man, get them on a retreat, get everybody together somewhere and just get that connection, that human connection. I love my colleagues who work out in Denver. Awesome. He's a great guy. I went out there to Denver to do a workshop, and I intentionally, Mike, we're going out for a beer afterwards. Why? I think the last time I saw him was 4 years ago at a retreat, then COVID and all that stuff, right? But make sure we're getting our people. We don't want to leave the remote and the other folks behind as well too. And so you can find talent in any zip code, and I wish you could find it around the world, but I think there's a few issues we have to deal with on that one as well too sometimes.
Yeah.
That's also what we were hearing as the Gen Z project developed, that's something they're really looking for, is that sense of community and the sense, contact, and really learning from actually seeing people and having some level of interaction.
I definitely agree, Terry. I mean, it's, I know, joke with my kids, right? They're all texting, they text each other back and forth. It's how you communicate, but they do. I mean, they enjoy going out, with they're still social creatures and stuff. And so, yes, there are elements of communication that you're like, that's kind of weird. You're like, they don't know how to address an envelope. I mean, I get it because they just email, but and they text and I'm like, Sydney, you know what a phone is, right? Yeah, it's a thing to text. I'm like, no, it's a thing to pick up and talk to someone. I get it, right? So, haha, we make a good joke about it, but yet they love to go out, hang out with their friends and go to plays and all this stuff. So things have changed, certain things have changed, and we may look at it and go, that's not the way I used to do it, right? Or whatever, or it seems so it's not. You just have to look at the context and the totality of it. And raising two teenagers for me has been like, okay, I get it. I see how this works. Like I sort of see where this is going. Like it's not antisocial. It's how they do it, but they're very social animals when they want to be. So.
Yeah.
So that's something too that I found really interesting. So I am Gen Z, and I've been with the federal government for about 6 years. And I've been part of a group. We stood up at GSA to build community around millennials and Gen Z, but also have those cross-generational conversations. So it's not like this us versus them, because that's the opposite of what we're trying to do, of what anybody's trying to do here. It's really about bringing people together and learning how we work and collaborate as a team towards similar missions. And we're all here to be public servants. And so trying to work towards those goals and break down this, they think this, these people feel this way, I don't do it like that. Stop that. You can talk about it and, laugh and joke and bring people together in that way. But it's really helpful to have those conversations even when they're hard and say, yeah, you're right. And joke about it and move forward of okay, so you like it this way. Let me meet you in the middle. And really build those connections that way.
Yeah. Awesome that you're in government, Raylan. That's fantastic. And yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's, let's have those conversations. Like, yeah, people have different experiences. They have different, different things that they came up with. They have different backgrounds. There's reasons why people are the way they are and stuff. But yeah, as if we're trying to collaborate in government, having those conversations and being open to what other folks have to say and other ideas is critical. And that's why I love the work I do when it's in Foresight. It's like, to me, the future is a really safe space for anybody, regardless of what generation you're in, to come up with brilliant and awesome ideas because it hasn't happened yet. So let's explore what's going on. So that's why, yeah, I'm 100%, Raylan. We need to have those conversations. Absolutely.
Any
Thank
other
you
questions?
for the kind words. I appreciate it.
I don't see any other questions, Eric.
That's fine.
Give one more moment.
Yeah, that's fine. Terry, there's my email. Everybody's got it. Y'all can email me. I'm I'm a little busy. Sometimes I don't get to them all the time. Terry will attest to that as well too. Like, so I do my best. But you can email me. I do work at OPM TRB. If you're ever in the DC area, give me a holler, shoot me an email, and we'll go out or something like that. But yeah, it's this is what I love to do. And I really appreciate y'all listening. I appreciate the kind words in chat. And again, if you have anything else or you want to reach out, by all means, you got my contact information.
Yeah, and while we're just talking about this, I'm going to shout out to in the chat there, Raylan's Z group. There's a contact info. And thank you, Eric. By the way.
You got it.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Great
discussion. Thank you.
Awesome. Anytime. Thank you. And I guess I'll leave everybody to their day. So enjoy the weather.
You're doing some amazing work, Eric. All right.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.